All right, so coming back from vacation, I missed the release date of Part Two, Watchmen, um, Chapter Two, Part Two, however you want to call it. I already did a review of the first one, and I said I'll do the second one when it was released. It released, I think it was December 3rd, but yeah, I was out of town then, so I just got it and watched it. And is this is a review, but it's more of my take on this whole project of Watchmen Chapter 1 and 2 of having the actual comic lore being put into animation. I want to talk about that, but first the review, because it's going to be quick when it comes to review. Chapter 1 ends with Rorschach being arrested. And it begins right after that. It really flows. If you know the comic, it flows. This animation really flows with that. So if you know the comic, you know this. It's the same thing I said with the first one. That's why I said this review is going to be short when it comes to that. And so I'm just going to say, if you want comic lore and clean continuation of what Chapter 1 has to offer, it does it well. It's the same like the first one. Graphics are done well. I think voice acting is done well. I do want to talk about that, though. It's done well, but there's something else about it I want to talk. I'll get to that in a minute. The soundtrack is very enjoyable. I didn't notice it as much in the first one. I did notice it, but not as much as I did this time. I always said this. Zack Snyder's Watchmen, the live action score, is one of the best I've ever heard in any movie. It's a lot. I have a list. I like listening to scores. That's something I do personally. And Watchmen is one of the top ever. And the animation movie really was influenced with the live action. And I like that. There's a lot of things in the Zack Snyder's Watchmen that was done very well. I always said Zack Snyder's Watchmen, even though it didn't follow the comics bar to bar, it still was a masterpiece of a movie. Script, the soundtrack, I think was one of the best things. The directing, but yeah, the soundtrack, the score was one of the best things about the movie, and I'm glad they took some influence of that and put it in the animation. It didn't copy it, because it didn't copy it. It didn't just take it from the live action and put it into the animation. No, it had its own, but you can hear the influence of Zack Snyder's, which I do appreciate. One of the flaws of this movie is there are some scenes where it just sounded like it was the voice actors and it matched with the animation too. It felt like they was reading a script. It felt like it was no emotion. There were some scenes in this part two. Can I say it? And it's not a spoil. Well, I'm not gonna say anything about the scenes, because in case you've never watched or read a Watchmen a movie or a comic book, I don't want to spoil anything. But there's situations that require a lot of heartfelt energy. I guess that's the best way to put it. And no offense to the actors or actresses, but they didn't deliver on it. It just felt like, you broke my heart. Okay, so anyway, over here, it was like, whoa. First, the way you said, are you sure your heart's broken? It sounded like you didn't really care. It just sounded very stiff. There was a couple moments like that. I guess that's the best way I could put it. Some moments that are meant to be heartfelt. Even when you read the comic book, it was more heartfelt than a couple of situations that was in the movie. Not a lot, but it was some moments I was like, and it bounced right after to the next scene. It was no weight to it. It was like, whoa. It really just felt like they was going through the motion. I guess it's the best way to put it. So, didn't like that, but thank God it wasn't a lot of those situations. But yeah, overall, if you like the first one, you're going to like the second one, beat by beat. I love how it shows you the whole story of the comic. Because like I said, Zack Snyder, for the most part, did what the comic did, but there were some things that was taken out. Some things was changed. The addition of adding Tales of the Black Friar was genius. And that to me was one of the best parts of both chapter 1 and 2. Was how they engaged in the Tales of the Black Friar. You'll know what that is when you watch the movie. I don't really want to spoil it. It's basically a story in a story, and the way they did it, I thought was genius. I was always looking forward to those scenes. The way you were engaged, I wanted to rewind and just look at that again. And there's honestly, I do want to read that Tales of the Black Friar one more time, because I believe. Oops, sorry, I hit the microphone. I believe there's some things I missed, but I got the importance of that story. But it's very engaging. It is, and I believe they made that whole comic in the animation movie just as engaging as it was me reading it. It did very well. The intensity, the sound in the background, the narrator, everything about Tales of the Black Friday I thought was done perfection. One of the top 3 things in this movie was that, and them adding into it, and it fit so perfectly. So shout out to them for that. But yeah, so that's the review. If you like the first one, you're gonna like the second one. I picked up both. I'm a Watchmen fan, so I have both. They're not bad movies. They are really good. There's some moments of like, okay, that had no weight to it. But overall, as a Watchmen fan, I enjoyed it. And if I was not a Watchmen fan, I would still tell you, like, I'm gonna tell my wife to watch it too, but I'll ask her, not tell her. You know what I mean though. But I'm gonna suggest it to her that she should watch it. Even if you're not a Watchmen fan, I would definitely check out. The story in Watchmen is top tier. And if you haven't seen the Zack Snyder movie, go watch it. That's a masterpiece. It was ahead of its time. And it's funny how people are praising the movie now, because when it first was released, it didn't really get a lot of play, a lot of praise. Excuse me. It was like a back and forth affair. But anyway, yes, well done. Now, let me get into this. This is what I really wanted to talk about. In a way, when I finished chapter 2, I felt as if this whole project was unnecessary. As great as it was, and I enjoyed it, it's going to be in my collection. For one, I think it was unnecessary to have as chapter 1, chapter 2. Both of these are an hour and a half-ish a piece. Something like that. I can't find. But basically, it was like an hour and a half a piece. They could have made this whole thing. It was unnecessary separated into 2 chapters. I understand business-wise to do it, but, you know, I don't know. When I finished it, I was like, I should just watch that on chapter 1. So to have it both in both movies, I don't think was necessary to separate it. 2, I also don't think it was necessary because I would advise people, if you want to watch Watchmen, watch the live action. Yes, Watchmen the live action doesn't give everything the comics have shown, but 90% of it is. It's like 90% of the comics is in the live action. And the reason I would say do the live action is because the performance is top tier. Everybody did their job right. There's a scene, spoiler. All right, I'm going to let you know now. There's some spoilers I'm going to give away. So if you don't want to hear spoilers about Watchmen, I will definitely turn it off right now. One of the disappointing scenes in chapter 2, and I can't blame the people who made the movie because it's animation. Well, no, you can make animation heartfelt and put, you can put heart into it. So no, I'm not mad at them, but it is disappointing. Was the performance of Rorschach and Dr. Manhattan at the end. If you know what I'm talking about, the end, what Dr. Manhattan did to Rorschach. I watched, if you compare it to the live action, I never forget when I first watched Watchmen ever. I don't know who the actor was who played Rorschach in the live action, but the writing for him when he was telling Dr. Manhattan that he is not compromising even in the face of Armageddon, and when he took his mask off and how emotional he looked, and he told Dr. Manhattan, "What are you waiting for? Do it." Then he screamed, "Do it!" And that little flick of Dr. Manhattan's eye, like you could tell it affected him, but in his heart, he believed he had to just, kill Rorschach, but you could tell he didn't want to. Those little interactions that you catch was something that made Watchmen amazing. Was one of the things. And then after, which I hated, but it was part of the story, and it really shocked me. But when Rorschach died, Night Owl, when he screamed, "No!" I forgot the actor's name, but whoever played Night Owl in the live action, that whole scene, whew, man, it had me, bro. I was like, goodness gracious. The acting, the intensity, the heartbreak of Rorschach, you felt for Night Owl, because I ain't gonna front. When I saw that movie for the first time, I was saying no to, not like Night Owl, but basically the acting weight of the live action overpowers the animation. So action, quality, acting of all the cast, the directing, the score, all did better in the live action. I will always tell people, if you're trying to decide, okay, if this is your first time ever in Watchmen, and you're sitting there like, okay, I want to get into Watchmen. Should I watch the animation comics because actually it has it beat for the comic, or should I watch the live action? Even though the live action doesn't have every detail, I would tell people to watch the live action. Because I thought about it watching the live action again and then watching this, that it didn't leave much out. And not much for you to get the point of the movie. Because the point was made in the live action the same way it was in the animation. So that's why I was sitting there like, I don't think this movie needed to be made. I'm glad as a fan, but it wasn't necessary. If anything, I think they should have re-released the live action. 4K, like extra special features, like another Ultimate Edition. I think they should have done that. If I made it, I would be like, okay, let's re-release that in theaters. I think, in my opinion, re-release it in theaters, I think that will hold very well now. Everything about Watchmen in live action, and release the Ultimate Edition, so all the scenes. It was like 3 hours and 30 minutes, I think, of the Ultimate Edition. Release that into theater. I think they should have done that and then re-released it in DVD, then having this animation. Even though I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. Like I said, I think it was unnecessary, but it was still great. Because it was cool to see the comics that you read come to life in the animation. So I thought that was cool. You know what I'm saying? So that was cool, but I mean, the voice of Rorschach in the animation was good. The voice actor for Rorschach and the actor for Rorschach in the live action was better. The voice actor for Night Owl was good. Night Owl live action was better. Everybody, it was the comedian. I thought, what's his name, Jeffrey something D Morgan it was just, if you compare all the characters, good and bad, the good guys, the bad guys, etc. If you put them next to each other, the live actions cast did a whole lot better than the animation. Honestly, I personally believe that this chapter 1 and chapter 2 was just for the fans who wanted the comic to come to life in animation the same way the comic was made. That's the only way, because I think business-wise, it would have been better to make the live action. So that's just my opinion. The live action had more, even though it showed less, if that makes any sense. It had more weight, more story. Yes, again, there are a couple things, and literally a couple things, it's not a lot, that they left out from the comics. So outside of that, I would say go to a bookstore and read those little bit that they left out. But I'll put it to you this way. I never knew a Watchmen ever in my life. Watchmen, the live action movie, was the first time me being introduced to it. And I'm telling you, from a first-hand experience, I went into Watchmen not knowing a single comic, not knowing what I was watching. I remember that trailer got me locked in. I was like, what is this? Nobody even told me what it was. I was sitting there like, it was during the Dark Knight when that was released. And they had this whole Watchmen trailer. I said, leave me alone. Like, that whole trailer, it was like, the world will look up to us and shout, save us. And I'll whisper, no. Like, I was like, what is going on? And the whole movie, the experience, everything, like I said, was done a whole lot better. And you can get the point of the movie just by watching live action and have a better movie, a better message, whatever experience than the animation. Now, granted, it's been 10 years or something like that since the live action's been out. But that's why I said they should just re-release that. Because how it looks still holds up now. That movie could have been released now for the first time. I would always say Watchmen, the live action, stands now. So I'm glad I got all three. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad I got all three. But if I would advise, if you're new to Watchmen, go to the live action first. If you just want this because if you become like me, where after seeing this movie, I became a fan of Watchmen, then it's this. Because, yeah, that's just the easiest way to say it. I do appreciate all the little nuggets that was left out of this in here. I do appreciate that. But Right there, everybody did a great job. Everybody in that cast, everything. So yes, it was a great project to do. It was unnecessary to have it as chapter 1, chapter 2. They should have just made it a 3-hour movie. And then I don't think it was necessary to come out now, except for the fact, I'll put it this way, it was unnecessary except for the fact to give people who wanted the comics to go into animation motion. Instead of outside of that, it wasn't really necessary for anybody else because you can just go and watch the live action, which to me is better. So that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think about in the comments below. And yeah, I love Watchmen. This is not me. It's not this. The movies were not bad. Please don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. But I watched all three, chapter 1, chapter 2, then the live action again. And I was watching that live action. I'm like, they could have just re-released this. The director's cut, Ultimate Edition, whatever. They could have just re-released that. Yeah, they could have just done that. I think that would have been a whole lot better. It had to be real. I think it would have been more profitable because I think that should have gone to theaters. Watchmen is a movie that could have been released now and probably been one of the best movies of the year, in my opinion. But that's just, like I said, just my opinion. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. All right, I'll check y'all later. Let me know how you feel about the Watchmen movies, if you watched them all. And if you disagree and say, no, this was very necessary and for more reasons than just for the people who read the comics. If you let me know, because I would like to know what your thoughts on it. But also let me know too if you think that this would have done a whole lot better coming out now than these. Let me know. And also let me know just everything I said about performances and everything. I would love to hear people's opinions of it. I'm a fan by myself. I don't really have other people that watch it with me. So I love talking about this stuff to y'all who do watch it, who are into it, who maybe didn't watch it, but it seems interesting. As a person who don't really have anybody to talk to about it with, I would love to hear what y'all think in the comments below. But anyway, thank y'all for tuning in. I'll check y'all later.